Dr. Paddy Lineen. You worked in Mulranney Hotel one time.
Yes, I spent a summer working there in 1959.
And what was your post?
I was a pool attendant. They had just opened a new outdoor swimming pool, seawater swimming pool.
And what size was it?
It was about 40 feet by 25. Maybe a bit larger, I'm not quite sure, I can't remember exactly.
And what was your function?
To look after guests around the pool, to haul out anybody who fell in, keep an eye out for people getting into difficulty.
So you were a lifeguard with us.
I was a kind of a lifeguard.
And what did the hotel look like that time? Was it nice?
The appearance of it was very similar to what it is today. The facade was very striking, especially when you went down to the beach. And one of my jobs every day was to go down to the beach and switch on the pump that pumped in the fresh seawater. You have to go down an hour before high water and turn on the pump, and it pumped fresh seawater into the pool, and the stale stuff flowed out. And turn off the pump again an hour after high water. So I had to keep an eye on the tides, and I had to run up and down the steps in front of the hotel to the pump house each time. It kept me fit and active.
What year did you say that was?
1959.
59, and it was built that year then, the first year of the pool?
It was opened that year.
As recent as that, yeah? As recent as that?
Oh yes.
59,
yes.
oh I thought it was way back.
No, they would have built it in 58 I suppose, and it was opened in, I think, Easter 59.
And the pump house was down at the bottom of the steps?
It was down at the bottom of the steps.
And was it an electrical one?
Electric pump, yes. And then you had to, there were great big carboys of chlorine or hydrogen chloride that you had to pour into the circulating pump each day. There were big 20-gallon carboys, and get it pumped pour so much of that into the pump each day to keep the water clean.
And was there any water testing that time, or you just changed it? That was it. You changed it.
There was no water testing that I was aware of.
Yeah, you just pump it up and change it every day. Yeah.
Absolutely empirical.
And was the pool busy?
It was quite busy. Yeah, there were a lot of guests staying there. The hotel was busy for the summer months. I didn't start there until when the summer holidays started, late June.
Late June.
A friend of mine had been working there the year before, Vincent Kilban, and he got me the interview, and I started. And the digs were paid for by the hotel. They put us up in the annex, which is now roofless.
That's the little house down, the two-story house down the back there, on the left-hand side.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And there was a great staff of students there. There were students from all over the country, lads from Dublin, Wexford, and the manager was Mr. McLaughlin, and he paid me 27 shillings and sixpence for 6 days' work every week.
Wasn't bad then, was it?
It was reasonable. You get some tips. And my ambition was to save enough money to go to the Olympics in Rome in 1960. I never got there.
Get enough, is it?
Yeah.
And where were most of the guests from that time?
City people, Dublin.
Irish, yeah.
Probably most of them Irish. A lot of Northern Ireland, and there'd be a few English.
And would the hotel be full for the summer months?
It'd be busy for July, August. September, of course, it closed down at the end of September, I think.
And who else was working there that you can remember in your time?
Oh, Bina McLaughlin. An old lady. She was working in the housekeeping department. She used to look after children and mind the kids for people who needed babysitters and things like that.
Who was on reception? Do you remember?
Miss Butler, currently Mrs. Sheila Moran in Mulranney.
Yeah. In the pub.
In the pub. Paddy Lineen was a painter, and I met him afterwards in Galway when he became a painter with the Western Health Board.
So you were maintenance,
The regional
was it?
hospital. Doing maintenance. Yeah.
Was there more maintenance people there or just himself?
Well, there were gardeners. Tommy Ginley was a gardener.
And was there much of a garden at that time?
Yeah, they kept the grounds beautifully. Rhododendron trees and the lawns. Always a problem to keep the sheep out, even then as now.
Yes, no, yeah. And how far back did the gardens extend that time? Did they go to the railway house?
No, Dr. Forbes was living up in the station house.
Mm.
That was where he was residing at the time. Remember going up to him one day, I got a splinter in my finger. He took the splinter out for me.
Good.
And that was up in the old station house, which is now part of the complex.
There was a tennis court, was there? Someplace.
There were tennis courts. I can't even remember where they were, but there were tennis courts somewhere.
They're out the back there, I think, on the left.
Yeah. I don't think they were there. I think that was all covered with scrub and rock.
Who was the barman? Do you remember the barman?
Can't remember. There was a Paddy Welsh from Kerry, was the main porter. And there was another Paddy, a porter.
Were there many locals working there at the time? Were they mostly-
a good few locals. A good few of the girls around the village.
Mm.
And Vincent Gilban, of course, was working there. Vincent was the same age as I was, which would have been about 17 or less. And his job was to drive the minibus to Westport to collect guests from the train, bring them to the hotel. He was employed as a kind of a taxi driver. I don't think he even had an ordinary driver's license at the time. Things were a little different from what they are now.
That's for sure, isn't it? Yeah. So you enjoyed it there, yeah?
Oh, I enjoyed the summer. It was hard work. You worked just 6 days. And Tony Chambers, of course, used to play in the bar or in the dance hall a couple of nights a week.
Did you ever get in to see him?
Oh, I did indeed, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Were there many teenage girls around that time?
There were a number of them. But I wasn't thinking too much about them.
And was he a regular player, Tony? Tony
He
Chambers,
was,
yeah.
He was, yeah.
And who played it at that time?
Small group.
Were the lads with him? They're probably too young then.
Ah,
weren't
no, I can't remember who was with him, but he was definitely on the job.